ask everyone to rate their looks on a scale of 1 to 10.
You know, I always go with 10, but just because I'm wearing a costume.
You're going to change it because you're in a costume?
Well, as far as the Carrie costume goes, there could be a lot more blood, so I'll give myself a 9 just to be humble.
But normally you say 10.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I would say 10.
Okay.
10s across the board, baby.
10.
I'm gonna say I'm a 7.
Okay.
I would say like a 9.
8.
All of you said you were 10s. Not all of you. But a lot of y'all said you were 10s. Our boy Evans gave his rating. Evans, I got love for you. Thank you for the support. I disagree with you slightly on the rating, but now that he's given you his rating, do any of you want to revise your rating at all, or sticking to how you previously rated yourself?
Anyone?
I think we're sticking to it. I don't think you changed our minds very much.
Okay, so if you guys are 10s, of those of you who said you were 10s or ranked yourself very high, you two said you were 10s, right? Did you say you're 9? Did you say 9 or 10?
I said 10.
Oh, you said 10, you said 9, you said 7, correct? 9, 8?
Yeah.
Do I have that right? Okay.
Good memory.
10, 10, 10, 9, 7, 9, 8. Okay. So if of those of you who said you were 10, are there no women who are more attractive than you? If you're 10, you must. There might be women who are as attractive as you, but there can't be women who are more attractive than you. Agree or disagree?
Disagree.
But if you're a 10, that's the top.
Yeah, but still, there's women more attractive than me, I would definitely say.
Okay, what about you?
I agree.
By the way, this is 10 physical appearance.
Yeah.
Because I guess some people might say total package, right? But still, physical appearance, still 10. Hensley?
We're top tier in our own way. Everyone's got different flavors, but we're definitely 10s for ourselves, and that's what really fucking counts.
Don't you think it's a bit of hubris, though?
Define it.
Define hubris?
Yes.
Excessive pride?
No.
What about to other people though? Like taking away what you think about yourself, what about what other people think?
Why does that matter necessarily?
Well, like what if that's the question though?
The question is objectively.
Yeah.
I still think it doesn't matter. It's whatever we consider ourselves. Because if you walk around with the confidence of a 10, you're going to portray yourself a lot more confidently as a 10 and be closer to it. And I also think with 10, there can be a lot of room for progress as well. I think I've said this before on the podcast, but part of being a 10 is open to growth and continuing to grow and just get prettier in our mentally and physically as we get older.
But what about besides confidence? Because maybe let's just talk about guys, what they're looking for. If they're just purely looking
guys
for,
are dumb. It doesn't matter.
but if they're just looking specifically,
Hold on.
yeah, and hold that thought. But wait, just if guys are specifically looking for,
their flavor?
yeah, for looks. Why
And
does
they'll
the
look for their
confidence?
flavor of a 10, but that doesn't mean we're any less
Right.
of a 10.
Well, it does to them.
Okay, it's all subjective. That's why you can't answer that question objectively.
Okay, but you can have some more realistic approaches too.
I think I'm being very realistic.
I don't think you are.
It's subjective.
Because
That's what I just
I don't.
said.
I think that it's important that women realize that if they believe that they're all 10s, and then they're gonna look for a guy who's a 10, that those guys aren't gonna
Our
want
number
them.
isn't based off men, though. That's what I'm also trying to say.
That's fine, but at the same time, if you want to find a dude that you're into, you know, if he's a 10 and you're like actually like a 3.
We actually normally, I don't think, put numbers on men as much. We just look
You
for
do.
someone.
You do. You do.
So who are all these guys asking us to rate ourselves? Is this women? Has
Are
ever
you
a
in-
woman asked the men?
Well,
to
I
rate
would.
them?
I wouldn't ask like someone to rate themselves, but just that's the question here. Like in this case,
So what are you asking me now?
I'm not really asking you anything, but what I'm saying is that if women, not you specifically, but women have an unrealistic idea of how they look, and they're inflated, like they think that they're all 10s, and then they're gonna look for guys who are 10s and who are very confident, have all those
The
good
universe
traits.
will humble them. It humbles us all.
I do have, if anybody wants to potentially play a little game, I have some Neutrogena makeup remover. If that adjusts anybody's ratings potentially. Jeez, tough crowd
Yeah.
tonight, eh? Tough
Wow.
crowd. Okay, my next question is then, so of those of you who rated yourself a 10, just maybe we can like try to get to the bottom of this. So is there maybe a celebrity that you can think of that you think is a 10 that you would, or just a guy that maybe who's famous that we can look up right now, who you think is your looks equivalent? Do you know a guy that we could look up who's you'd consider your looks equivalent?
A guy?
Yeah. Brad Pitt, Johnny Depp when he was young.
Get back to me on that question. Let me think.
What about you? Is there a guy who you were like, not your doppelganger, but who would be your looks match or your looks equivalent?
I'm gonna be honest.
Michael B. Jordan.
Ooh. Okay.
What do you rate
interesting
him?
one. I personally am not that attracted to Michael B. Jordan, so I would say he's like a 8,
He's an 8
9 in my book.
in your book.
But
Who's a
in my
10 in your
book.
book for a guy?
Ooh, it's putting me on the spot.
Gideon? Gideon? Do you know Gideon?
Is that the YouTuber?
Yeah, it's the YouTube.
Oh
No,
yeah.
I don't know.
Okay. Any guy that comes to mind who's a 10?
That comes to mind right now is Timothy Chalamet. I don't know if that was just like a teenage crush or if that's like an actual like.
Okay.
Yeah.
Timothy Chalamet.
Yeah.
Okay. So he's a 10, you're a 10.
I mean, I will have to say, you did ask us what we would rate ourselves. So in my head, I see myself as a 10. So yeah.
Did you think of anybody or?
Nope.
Okay.
Oh.
So, go ahead, Michael.
No,
Go
no, I
ahead.
was just gonna say, for you to go next. Yeah.
For me to
Yeah.
someone who's a 10?
Yeah.
Well, she ranked herself 9.
Okay, so
That's
who's your
still
equivalent?
pretty-
Yeah,
pretty
it's
high.
Pretty
high,
up,
pretty
yeah,
high.
yeah.
Um. Odell. Beckham Jr.
Odell Beckham Jr.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
I guess the issue I think that me and Michael have with it is that if you rank yourself a 10, in order to find a partner that is commensurate to your level of attractiveness, you need to have a reasonable self-assessment of yourself. So I think like if you have this inflated ego of like I'm a 10, then you're going to be looking towards guys who are 10s, and you're going to disregard men that are otherwise, if we come down to reality, are on your level.
I disagree because not most girls don't just look at the looks. Like you talk to someone and you want to like see how their personality is. Like I know that's really cliche, but I feel like at least me in my personal experience, I don't like look at how they look like if they're cool and I really like their personality, then I'm gonna go for it. Even if like someone says like, oh, like he's so ugly. Like,
You might disagree with that, but if you look at statistically like what's happening right now, guys that are not 7, 8s, 9s, 10s get like basically no pussy, and so that's how girls are basically looking. It's like they really look up, and so when we have girls that are, realistically 3s, 4s, 5s, 6, all looking for 7, 8, 9, 10, that's an issue.
Why?
Well,
Why are you so concerned about
Well-
men just not finding women?
because it's an issue. Because if you look at, there's a lot of men that are out there that are actually really upset because they find, and when I say upset, these are the people that are school shooters. These are the people that are actually
so
angry.
you're going to place their, super bad, like self-esteem on because women.
Well, that's
don't
I
pay
think that's a
attention
very
to
that
them.
is an extreme example.
That's
That
just
is-
like
it's
a
in a very
sad
extreme-
excuse of a
Yeah.
human.
It's extreme, but it's also like, I think in general it's a bad thing because the direction that we're headed right now is really one of more polygamy.
Okay, so I'm gonna talk straight. So right now, from everything you've said so far, you're like validating men's feelings way too much over women's feelings. You're like, no, but men, we can't find women because they think they're a 10. Let me finish. And then like you see us, and then you're like, but you're like, you consider yourself a 10, but what if you're a 4? Okay, then if I go up to a guy and he's like, yeah, I'm not interested, we usually are like, all right, and we move on. But men, when you reject them, they're like so hurt about it. Like they just can't like seem to control their emotions, and then they want to place it on us like we are somehow like they are somehow the victims.
I'm not saying it's your fault, but what I'm saying is that in the current culture that we have,
It's our responsibility to aim
But
lower.
look-
I think in our current culture, lots of girls they truly believe that they deserve the best of the best.
As
What's
you
wrong
should.
with that?
That's a problem because
No.
what
But
about
okay,
all the
no.
other guys
me,
out there?
Let me just come in really quick. If you're an average woman, you deserve an average man. If you're an average man, you deserve an average woman.
No.
If you're an average woman,
No.
you don't get a top tier guy. Point blank. Period.
And you won't. You
but
won't
we're
get a top
okay
tier
with
guy.
that. You guys are so scared of being alone, and that's the problem. Like cope,
Yeah.
like really, like cope with being single. And if you
You're talking
like,
about guys?
I'm talking about guys. Like if they want to, like go up in the scale, then be better. Why aren't you telling them, be better, focus on your
We
appearance?
do. We do.
But they're not doing it.
That's true. That is true. There's some truth there
Like
that
if
guys
you go
have work
to
to do.
club,
Yeah.
like literally, I would say 90% of the men there, I'm just like, nope. And
Wait, 90% of the men
yeah,
at the
in
club?
clubs are like, nope. And then maybe, let's say one of them comes up and he's like, all right, like, let's dance. From there on, it depends on how he talks to me, how he treats me, and the vibe. Like, it's no longer just appearance. So let's say he's
Yeah.
like, you like a 5, and I'm like, all right, like, let's dance. Depending on how the conversation goes, depending on how he's being with me, even if he's a 5, like that can either go down or up depending on his actions, personality. And I feel like men are just so stuck up on how they look that they don't work on the rest of them, like themselves, as if it's not as important.
Are you talking about money, like finances?
No, that's not even like
Well, you
mo-
said work on the rest of themselves. Would
yeah,
you?
like personality, like conversation. Like I have met so many attractive men that are just ass when it comes to conversations. So no matter how cute they are, like if we can't even hold like a basic conversation, like there's no point.
Okay, and that makes sense. But even like when we talk about now looking for high value men, because you're still looking for a man that's going to take care of you and that's going to provide and do all these things, and hopefully look good looking too. If you're looking for that type of person, but realistically, like that girl that's looking for him is not holding her, maybe she doesn't look good, maybe she does look good, but maybe she doesn't bring other things to the table.
Okay, then he can move on. Like
would
why is he
definitely
so
say-
obsessed with that?
I would also
He
say
will
like,
move on.
women aren't unhappy if they aim high and miss. We're unhappy if we aim low and we hit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or you could just be with someone who's on your level.
But why?
There's that too.
Like,
Like,
why are
why
you
is
guys
that
so obsessed with being like, oh, I'm average. Why don't you pay attention
Well,
to
because
me?
this is what's leading to unhappy women later on in life. Like,
no, where are
yeah,
you
it
getting
is.
these stats from?
Well,
Women
I'm sorry, you're
enjoy
showing us how it
being
works?
single.
Yeah, it
like,
is.
women are very happy being single. Like, why do you think they're
You're,
not
you're
going
actually
into
very
relationships?
unhappy being single. You might be happy
like that
right
he's
now
telling us
when
his
you're.
emotions
You
right
might be
now.
happy
Are you
right
an
now.
incel?
No, you might be happy right
Oh
now
my
when you're in your
gosh,
prime. When you're in your
Okay.
prime, you might be happy.
But
But later
then-
on in life, you're gonna want to have a companion. You're gonna want to
Okay,
have someone.
How
that
do you
you're-
know that? Actually, a lot of
Because
women are getting
I'm-
older, staying
Yeah.
single, and
Well,
just
you-
getting fucking hobbies
they've
over
done
our men.
the demographic of people that are on the most antidepressants are women in their like 40s to 50s or something like that. Chase, are you in the chat? Can you get us the exact?
But that's also
stat?
because of like just society that like when you see a woman in her like 30s, 40s, all of a sudden you're like shaming her for not being in a relationship, not having a husband, not having kids. So that adds to like their stress and their
We're not
emotions.
shaming them. We're not shaming them at all.
No.
No, we're not shaming them. This is them saying, and you can start to see this now. You can see them because more women are coming out about this, about how unhappy they are that they did certain things when they were younger.
They're also a different generation than us.
Yeah.
They are, but do you really think when you're alone and you're in your 40s, like that's where you want to be at?
Sure.
Yeah. I
For
can,
You sure about
Yeah.
that?
For
You don't
some
want to,
people,
because
yeah.
like a
We
lot.
can be
'cause
happy
when
by
But
ourselves.
this is what concerns me about this modern day culture, because I truly believe that you guys believe that, but I don't think that's the right thing. That you have this belief. You can have it and it won't upset me.